It's Thursday, it's 5, and we're live. Frankly speaking, where truth is our mission, really our realm, set as we see it, and frankly as well. The return of the dynamic duo. They are back after a 2-week sabbatical. Paul Crowley and the Honorable Council President Darren Sear.
So how is it that no matter where I sit, no matter what the table is, I'm always the shortest one on the pile?
Because you are.
Because we both have
Simple
bigger
thing.
butts than you have.
Well, the people want to hear about Frankly Joe, and they're going to get Frankly Joe right now. Recently, Senator Harris of California said that building a southern border wall is a colossal waste of money, and besides, walls don't work. Others from the left, Elizabeth Warren and Seth Bolton, for example, argue you can climb over them, dig under them, so on and so forth, all of which is true, but misses the point. Walls do deter. Ancient cities were walled. It took the Greeks 20 years and trickery to breach the Trojan Wall. When a person escapes from prison, it's such a phenomenal achievement that they make movies out of it. Walls work. If all they do is slow the flow, they're worth the dough. What do you think? Let us know. 781-780. 9460. Well, dynamic duo.
So I have
What
an interesting thing about that.
What?
So for I don't know how many years, the Soviet Union put up a wall to keep their people in.
Yeah.
And they were pretty effective at keeping them in, right?
Yes.
Right.
And it was called the Iron Curtain.
Yeah. And then China, well, obviously it was long before that, built a wall that's thousands of miles long to keep out the. You would probably know
the Mongols
and all that kind of stuff, and they were able to keep them out for an extended period of time. And I think your point is well taken, and that is that you can't think about this as an absolute. It's either you stop everything, or it's not worth it. It needs to be, viewed as something that can slow and possibly reduce substantially the flow of illegal activity and contraband.
Let me ask you this, because you're in the construction business, right? Dams work, don't they?
Yep.
They don't always stop all of the flow, but they work.
Right. For the most part.
Yeah. And so when people tell you that you have to dig down 30 feet, so what? I mean, the whole idea is that you just contain and you make things useful. Comment?
Well, can I just say that the business of putting, a wall up to slow the flow in is further compounded by the fact that it's my understanding, and I think that this is what the ICE agents say, is that the border is being, inundated with people trying to get across, but they're kind of instigated by the drug traffickers, because what they try to do is get all the resources chasing down the people trying to cross the border so that they can be on the other side of the bridge, sneaking their stuff in. So it's also a tool of the drug trade. Right,
but the majority of people that are coming across the border are people who are just looking for a better life. And they're coming out of El Salvador, where nobody is safe. Whether you're and everybody in El Salvador has to commit their alliance to a gang, and I won't say the gang who it is.
So why should we inherit that gang?
Well, it's not that we should inherit it, but that gang is here in America already.
No, it wasn't there beforehand. It became here.
Well, yeah, but a lot of these gangs, well, actually, the gang started here in America, started in Los Angeles. And then it went down to El Salvador. And then when they had the Civil War down there, there were no jobs and there was no way of living, and the gangs kind of took over.
But isn't that the responsibility of the sovereign state to be able to provide a good way of life for its citizens? Isn't that the purpose of government?
Yep.
All right, so if they have a corrupt government, and there are many corrupt governments around the world,
especially in South
what's offensive?
Yep.
What's offensive is when folks come from these oppressive governments and they fly the flags, and I fly the flag of my heritage.
Yep.
In my house. But I also fly the flag of the United States, okay?
Right.
I'm an American. I was born here. My parents weren't, my siblings weren't, and I'm bilingual. But let me tell you something. It's very offensive to me that people who come to this country who pledge allegiance to their former country that treated them badly and expect all the goodies and don't want to participate. That is what's got people upset, I think.
I think that's a big part of what gets them
You know?
upset, sure. And, you know, and the premise that as a society, we are obligated as opposed to, you know, wanting to do it out of the good nature of our hearts, that we are obligated to take all comers is ridiculous.
But isn't that the mindset of the liberal left and the globalist?
Right, no borders.
It was the mindset of the forefathers of America, too.
Not really.
Take
Well,
everybody
yeah, when
Why
they
did they
started
control?
America, you got to take a look at when the reason why America was started was for the freedoms of religion
Sure.
and government.
True, but let me ask you this. They also put restrictions on you couldn't vote unless you own property. They said if you don't have skin in the game, you shouldn't be able to vote. Now, there's something to be said about that. I mean, that's not a bad concept.
No,
They
but it
limited-
also says
they
in
absolutely
the
limited.
Constitution that all men are created equal as well.
That's true, and by all men, they meant women too, and they meant
Right,
all
they
ethnic
meant
groups and
everybody.
everything else.
Yep.
But at the same token, that's a standard of human rights.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily a standard of citizenship.
Right.
Right.
So what they're saying is that if you own property, if you have a vested, if you're paying the freight
Yep.
to run the show, then you know you have to have skin in the game. We don't have that anymore. We have people who have a vested interest in voting for people who are going to give them more at the expense of someone else.
But everybody has a vested interest.
Of course they do.
We all do.
It's a level of degree.
Right.
And we're going to get to something right. I'm going to test you guys. And you folks out there, the answers come at the end of the show. I'm going to ask the questions. Don't you dare answer them right yet. Ponder them. Let's get up. Do you know your VPs? Question 1. How many vice presidents became president? You read the next one there, Mr. Crowley.
They were known as accidental presidents since they became president upon the death of a president. Can you name them?
You like that? Think about that one.
It's kind of the same answer. I mean,
No, it isn't.
all of those accidental presidents were vice presidents who became presidents, weren't they?
No.
2 of them did.
You're missing the point. Some people became president not as a result of the death of a president. They became president in their own right thereafter.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Impeachment.
Well, that so
Impeachment.
So there's 2 different answers there. Darren, number 3 is yours. Have you got? Hey, put that up there. Darren can't see anyways.
say
He
move.
really can't see without it up there. Do you know your VPs?
you're going to have to read them.
I guess. Who was the only VP, vice president, to become president, but not immediately after serving as vice president? Y'all get that one? Get your pencils out. Which president had the most children? That's an interesting one. And how many did he have? Who was the only vice president who was appointed rather than elected to office? If you missed that one, go back to school. So, Darren, I'm really kind of thrilled about, and you should speak to this, Jamie Marsh, your guy, the guy you talk about a lot,
I know, Jamie. Yep.
community development guy.
Yep.
And apparently you guys, it's movie time?
Yep. He's
And-
going to start
ahead.
doing movies where you're going to be able to come in and get your usual popcorn and Raisinets and snow caps. And you're also going to be able to buy beer and wine at $2 or $3. You know,
Is it going
and
to be
it's-
first run movies?
Yeah.
Some of them are actually, yeah. Some of them are going to be old movies, and some of them are going to be first-run movies before they go out on DVD.
Right.
Well, actually, the very first one they're talking about was the one with played Winston Churchill, right?
Right.
The
Right.
Darkest Hour.
Yep.
And it's right up there. And here's, once upon a time, there were more than 10. Now there are none. As a matter of fact, our studio is on the site of one of the former theaters, the
Right.
Paramount.
Right.
That's an interesting question. I wonder if anybody could answer all of the names of the theaters that were in Lynn when you and I were kids.
I can name 3 of them.
That's it?
Buick was
Well, that's
one.
4. So Paramount, the Warner, the
Capitol.
Colonial. Oh, the Capitol, I mean, yeah.
Capitol.
Yeah.
The Warner, right?
Olympia?
The Warner was down the street.
Olympia?
Next to Woolworths.
Olympia,
Right? How about the Audi, my favorite? The Uptown?
Uptown.
I'm running out of gas here. Help me out, guys.
Well,
There was something in the order.
Well, you
Was
know-
there one before-
Well, which one was the last one? The Capitol.
That's right. It went down in 1976, right?
Yep.
so if you and you know, so back in the 50s and the 60s, there were like 2 things to do besides shop outside of the home, and that was go to the movies or go bowling. And at
Well,
the
there's
same time,
actually
there were
three things. You can make babies.
Well, you're the last of the bullies.
outside of the home, I
Oh,
said.
okay.
According to Jamie Marsh, well, the good news is that there's a movie revival about to begin. And according to Jamie Marsh, Lynn's Community Development Director, movie nights are back at the Lynn Auditorium. And the price is right, by the way. It's $3 a ticket, which is, that's
Yep.
pretty economical. And they're going to have beer and wine, as you pointed out, soft drinks, and they'll be offered at affordable prices. So, what do you folks think out there? Good idea, bad idea? Our number is 781-780-9460.
I think anything that they can do to to take full advantage of that auditorium is a great idea because
Yeah, well, they're gonna
it's a community resource. It's ours, and we should be using it as often as we
And they are. I mean, you went to one yourself. I remember you commented when we did a show that you had gone to see it.
Well, I've been to dozens of them. I mean, but, what's really pretty cool about it is that when you go, you meet people who come from New Hampshire and Rhode Island and Maine and as far away as Connecticut to come here into Lynn, and it's their first time coming here, and they've heard about Lynn, but when they get here, it's not what they think it is.
Right.
You mean the
And
image-
I've met them at restaurants, not just over at the auditorium. So, they're frequenting our restaurants as well.
You know what's going to happen tomorrow night here at the studio, Paul? You got the paper there. You should read it to the folks. Folks, listen to this one. This is a great, great thing happening. You talked about whether they were going to have up-to-date films. Well, they're going to have classics at the auditorium. And, there's nothing like Casablanca. You know what I mean?
Right, yep.
Of all the gin mills that got to see how to stop in a mine, But, and what's happening here? And it's tomorrow night.
So at Lynn Community Television, we are proud to announce our new Paramount Film screening series, named in honor of the Paramount Theater, which used to sit at the same location that we occupy here today. On the second Friday of each month, LCTV will screen a different film at 7 p.m. with doors opening at 6:30. There will also be concessions available for purchase. On Friday, April 13, we will be playing Psycho here at LCTV for our first movie in the Paramount Film screening series. Come on down at 6:30 to get some refreshments before the film starts at 7.
I was thinking of coming down, but that movie scares the living hell out of me, You remember that movie?
Oh, yeah.
Anthony Perkins in that one, right?
Right, and you just, no matter how many times you watch it, you can't really
Oh,
anticipate when it's going to happen,
The shower scene is brutal. Forget that one. So, before we go to break, our first break, I want to bring up H.L. Mencken. You're going to love this. Well, first of all, we have a caller. We'll go to that. Okay? Caller, get up there. Oh, by the way, before I read that, we will have the machinery to go with the phones next week.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Get that back up, caller. Are there any plans to put in more entertainment options downtown, like an arcade, small movie theater, etc.? That's a great question. Thanks, Dan, for the question. Either one of you?
I don't know that there's any of those types of destinations, but I do know that isn't there like a brewery going in at the old Security National Bank on the first floor?
Right, yep. It's going to be Pies and Suds.
Right.
That's what it's going to be
Right,
called.
so that will be a place to go type of thing, and I think
Yep.
that's an important.
It's something to explore.
It's
the concept,
a
yeah.
destination. Yeah.
We're going to go to a break now because I think this is probably break time, and we'll be back. So get your pencils out because there's a lot of questions we're going to have to answer. We're trying to prove how erudite our audience is, by the way. To tune in to us, they have to be.
Welcome to Lynn Community Television, your local media center. Here, we have great resources and staff to help create your own content.
Hi, I'm Jim Carrigan, host of The American Dream. I'm also a member of Lynn Community TV, and I want to encourage everybody out there who's not a member of Lynn Community TV to join the group. We have a lot of fun down here. The studio is new and it's in fabulous
Things
condition.
provided to our members are state-of-the-art studio, video and audio equipment, editing space, and a full-on training session with a staff member.
I've been involved in access television for over 20 years. Our shows have gone out to tens of thousands of people in local communities and millions throughout the world. Come on down, learn how to use the equipment to promote whatever it is you're doing.
For more information, please visit our website at www.lyntv.org, give us a call, or come on down to the station at 181 Union Street in Lynn.
And we're back. So let's get ready to H.L. Mencken. Nobody went broke. Underestimating the taste of the American public. Are you aware of that?
That sounds
Would you
a
like a
little,
repeat?
That sounds a little bit like Bonham and Bailey. Like, what did he say? There's a sucker born every minute.
Well, here's the guy that did it. For every complex problem, there's an answer that is clear, simple, and wrong. You've noticed that on the council, haven't you? An idealist, you gotta love this one. An idealist is one who, on noticing that roses smell better than cabbage, concludes that it will make better soup. If a politician, I'm looking right at you there, Mr. Sear, if a politician found he had cannibals among his constituents, he would promise them missionaries for dinner. Criticism is prejudice made plausible.
Wow.
That's pretty good, isn't it? This is a classic. What men value in the world is not rights, but privileges. There's a lot of, that's what you're up against all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And last but not least, all government, of course, is against liberty. Any comments?
That's so true. All governments against
You have
liberty.
to digest all of that?
You know, it's ingrained in the politician, in the government bureaucracy, that they need to just grow and take over more control. And who loses when that happens? The citizen's liberty, right?
Now, here's a fella that did this pre-World War II. We're talking about, a long time ago.
These premise, every one of these concepts that he raised in his statements,
Yeah?
existed 1,500 years ago. 2000.
Of course.
Yeah.
Nothing changes, right?
Right.
Tax time, Mr. Sear. April 15th, right around the corner, folks. I'm going to get nailed to the cross by the federal government, so you're an accountant.
Can I just say that April 15th is not the deadline?
Well, that's the official date, but it will be on...
You have until midnight on April 17th, so for all you
Because, yeah.
procrastinators, you just bought yourself 2 more days.
Okay.
Yep.
And we also bought a month, as far as the real estate tax is concerned, right? Now, that's effective May 1st.
Yeah, May 1st.
Right. Has that been set?
Yep.
Is it going to be higher than last year?
Your taxes?
Yeah.
Of
The
course.
value of your property is.
Oh, so in other words, it's going to be higher?
Yep.
Because that,
Automatically,
yeah,
yes.
okay. So, see, here, folks, I've been complaining about this now. I did my taxes for the federal government that's due the 17th, and I noted I picked up 2014. I paid $4,600. You know what I paid last year? $53. I went up $700 in 4 years, folks, and more to go May 1st. Thank you very much. Not only that, you're going to be kissed with a trash fee. Now, I, since I'm a youngster, will get a little bit of a tax break. What's it, $50 a year on the tax bill?
I believe it's a $20 break you're going to get.
I am, but you're not.
Nope.
Is it going to be $50?
90.
On top of the real estate bill or separate from?
It'll be $90. It'll be $45 and $45. You'll get it twice a year.
But added to or
Yeah,
separate from?
No, it'll be. I believe it'll be added to your taxes.
So
It's not really a tax, though.
So,
Wink, wink.
so the fee is going to be put into the real estate tax.
Yep.
Now, most people aren't going to see it because, you have it deducted or you pay it within your mortgage. I don't. I pay mine quarterly by myself. And I notice the difference,
Right.
That's what they get people. If people pay quarterly, they'd be up in arms.
Right.
I
Good.
pay quarterly.
Well,
Well, you understand.
that's like the W-2 business. I mean, we talked about this in the past, and if people had to pay their taxes quarterly, everybody who had a job and got a W-2, and they didn't have their taxes withheld, and every quarter they had to write out a check for the IRS.
Federal government, yeah.
And if we voted right around the April 15th every time, I'll tell you what, we would have, the system of politics in this country would be solved overnight.
Completely.
Because what happens is they shift it so that all of the bad decisions or the unpopular decisions that they have to make, they make them so far away from the election that people forget about them.
Let me ask you this. Oh, by the way, the water sewer bill going to go up too?
That I don't know. I don't think it is this year, but possibly next year because of the water and sewer separation that's going to be taking place over in Westlawn.
By the way, folks, the ticket on that, at least 100 million. I say 150, you say 106.
Well, that's the price tag they're saying.
Yeah.
So we all know that, you know.
It can't be what they're
it's-
saying. 106
right,
is
it's
it's always
always
going to be. It will never be less.
overrun.
But $150 million, I don't care how they do it. You know, see, the Lynn Water Sewer Commission has a revenue source because they're a utility fundamentally, right?
Right.
So you're paying for a commodity, you're paying for water.
Yep.
So you have some control over usage.
Yep.
So as they jack up, this is where they make a mistake.
But we-
if you conserve, you actually, they should never tell you to conserve.
Right, Dave Travis's biggest bugaboo is the more we conserve, the less money they make, and the more they have to
Exactly.
raise.
I mean,
But you got to also take a look at the fact that in all the communities, cities, towns in the Commonwealth, Lynn has the best water, and we have probably the cheapest water bills. Talk to somebody who's got MWRA
Right.
water bills coming in.
you realize that yours truly, Joseph S. Spina, Esquire,
Yep.
was the council representative to put together the Lynn Water Sewer Commission in the first instance.
Yep.
I'm very well aware of what it did. and it didn't
So
do.
we just got to throw that in there
Yeah.
because when we're, and pardon my French, bitching about taxes, it's what you get for your money. So actually, you're getting a bigger bang for you in Lynn for paying the water bill
So that
than
should
you
make
would
me
in
feel
any
better.
other community.
Should make me feel better.
Well,
No, but it shouldn't make you feel as bad as,
Right.
as you're trying to make
I get what you're
everyone
saying, yeah.
else feel.
Well, I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad. I'm just trying to talk about reality. You know, we have to pull in the reins.
Right. I mean, here we all are sitting here drinking a bottled water, where I truly believe that Lynn could go into the water business, and we could be selling our water.
That's a belief. Let me explain a little trick to everybody. You see, folks, when you turn and you filter water, the water is delivered through what is known as pipes.
Right.
So if those pipes are corroded, guess what? The water is not going to be that good. You have to clean the pipes in order for the water to be good, even if you filter it. Would you agree to that?
I would.
You
yep.
can't put clean water into dirty pipes and expect to end up with clean water.
Yep, but we have clean pipes in Lynn.
Well, we're in the process of it. We don't have them yet. We add a lot of copper sulfate and a lot of chemicals,
Yep.
and we have to test it constantly, particularly for bacteria
Yep.
and other types of organics in the summertime in particular.
But the reason we have copper sulfate is because we add it into the reservoirs because of the algae that's there.
Exactly.
It kills the algae.
Exactly.
And it's the same thing when they put chlorine or fluoride in the water or anything like that. It's because that's what the public is looking for.
Yes, I understand that. But the point is that they have to reline and clean the pipes.
Yep.
I mean, we agree to that.
Yep, yep.
Okay. Now, I want to go to an item. Folks, pay attention to this because this I think is a very important issue. Put up citizenship, would you, Pedro, please? And here's the definition of citizenship. It is the status of a person recognized under the custom or law as being legal, which I italicize and underline, member of a sovereign, italicize and underline, state or belonging to a nation. Now notice it says legal member. Thus, should non-members of a sovereign state be allowed to vote? I ask you folks, and I
No.
ask you too. Huh?
I say no.
Simple, right?
Right.
It's logically they should not.
Right.
And yet there are folks in Maryland, communities in Maryland, right now as we speak, who allow non-citizens or non-members to vote.
For local
California,
elections, just for local elections.
doesn't matter. They shouldn't be allowed to vote anywhere because they're not members of the sovereign state. Otherwise, don't have a
Okay.
nation.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but let me at least lay out the fact that the sovereign state in this case is the United States
Of America.
of America, right?
And each state is sovereign.
Right. So if the city of Lynn
Yeah.
chose to allow its members to vote for school committee under the premise that all of the people that live in city of Lynn send their kids to public schools, you can see how it would make sense for those who had a stake in their kids' education would have an opportunity to influence the decision making.
Should a non-citizen have stake in the education of their children?
So let me ask you this, though, that somebody sneaks into the country and they wind up having a child here in America, that child becomes a citizen, correct?
if the child is born in America.
born in America.
On
That
American
is,
soil.
that's open to interpretation, by the way. Yeah, currently that's the way it is. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm agreeing with what Paul is saying about, if you really think about it, that, you know, first of all, these people came here for a better life.
Yeah.
I believe more than 90% of them. And they should have a stake as to type of education that their kids are getting, and also
Whether
say
they're
in
citizens
the
or
government.
not. Wait a minute. Whether or not they're citizens.
Well, I mean, but my whole attitude on that has changed in the last 10 years because I've actually sat in rooms with a lot of these people who are afraid of being sent back to the country that they came from. So I'm a firm believer in what we got to do is fix the problem. We got to stop the flow coming in. The people that are already here,
Yeah.
I believe we should, you know.
I don't have a problem. Paul, you've heard me say this for as long as we've been doing the show,
Yeah.
that you can't do anything about the people already here. You might as well absorb
Right.
them, and that's it.
Right.
Forget about it.
And
But
that
you
includes
gotta
allowing them to vote, in my opinion.
No, they have
Well,
to.
in my opinion,
No,
it
they
does.
have to acquire citizenship, as my parents did. They had to go learn what America was all about,
Yeah.
and they had to take a test that they were somewhat literate, not very good, and know a little bit about U.S. history,
Right.
and then they were allowed. There was a 5-year period. I have no problem with that. You know, if all of the quote-unquote dreamers or illegals go through the process
And
of
we're
becoming
talking
citizens.
100 years ago, but
Doesn't matter.
I know.
I mean,
but
the idea
things
of sovereignty
change.
is
But
not
100
something.
years ago, we weren't actually providing K through 12 education either. So
Right.
And we weren't getting whacked with the social benefits that we have
Right.
today.
Right.
We've-
My
we've
parence had you had to
truly
have a
created
sponsor
this
to come to this
the
country.
issue.
You couldn't come to this country unless you had a sponsor.
Right. But you know something? We're the ones who created this problem.
No, we
With
didn't.
illegal. Well, the three
Ted
of us
Kennedy
sitting
did.
here.
the knuckleheads we
But-
put in office. did
No, let me tell you who did.
Who?
All the multimillionaires who needed.
Well, that's Ted
Cheap
Kennedy.
labor.
Okay, but
That's
they
Ted
needed
Kennedy.
cheap labor to cook their meals, take care of their kids, and cut their grass, paint their house. So for years and years, this has been going on. And everybody back home where they were coming from heard how good they were doing here in America. So for a long time, until the last 20 or so years, this wasn't an issue. But because of the amount
Darren,
of people that are coming across
Darren,
the border,
they
now
shut
it
off.
is.
Everything you said is true.
Yep.
My father came over here to do exactly what you
Right.
said.
Yep.
Then they shut immigration off to Italy.
Right.
Not only Italy, but to Greece, Southern Europeans, Eastern Europeans were shut off. They didn't want them anymore.
Right.
Okay?
Yep.
And they shut them off until 1965 because they had to control the immigration. We are out of control.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
Oh, we're definitely out
We're
of
out of
control.
control. Now, here's one that really gets me. And put that up again, Pedro, if you would. Should non-members of a sovereign state be counted as members of the state? There's a census coming up. It's a very important issue.
I would say that we need to know how many people there are in the city of Lynn.
That's different.
On one hand.
Right.
And on the other hand, we need to know how many of those are actually registered voters or eligible to be voters.
In other words, you're saying whether they're citizens or not.
Right.
Don't hedge around it. So the question coming up in the census in 2020 is, are you a citizen? That's the question that's coming up.
Right.
Guys like women like Elizabeth Warren and politicians like her and Seth Moulton are opposed to that question.
Right. Even
Now-
though it was on
Was
there
that
since-
question always on there?
Always.
From the-
Always.
in the-
Because it's a matter of apportionment. You determine how many representatives you have by the voting public, American
right,
citizenship,
right.
not members.
Yep.
That's the thing. If people are here going to universities, they're counted not as part of the population. They're residents, temporary residents. You get my point?
Right. So here's the thing, and I think this is to your point, Darren. What we have is a case where when you count the people, like for example in the city of Lynn or Gliss, we have to keep track of how many elders there are so that we can get our proper apportionment of dollars for meals and things like that.
We're going to get to this one because we have to take a break.
And that's a
We're on
very
Whether they're legal or illegal?
Right.
Well, we'll get to this because we get a hard break. We'll be back with the subject right after this break, and you can pine in also.
Start a story. Adopt at theshelterpetproject.org.
Once you shoot your first needle, you become feeble. Your body begins to ache and deteriorate. If you don't seek help fast, your inner voice will wheedle you into doing worse than that.
And we're back. Our number here is 781-780-9460. I'd like to have you folks respond to what is citizenship? And should that be a requirement for voting? And should that be a requirement for taking a census in order to apportion representatives? And what about sovereignty, Paul? You know, Mexico has far more stringent immigration laws than we do.
Yeah, how about the caravan that was going on down there? They had these 1,500 families or so that were walking from Central America straight through Mexico to come to the United States.
Exactly.
Why wouldn't Mexico say?
Because their immigration laws are very strict. If you enter Mexico illegally, they put you in a can with no ifs, buts
They
about
didn't put
it.
those 1,500 families in the can.
No, because they're on their way to see us.
Right.
They're coming
And they
from
don't
the
want
other
them.
direction.
Huh?
They're coming from the other direction. They're not coming.
But it's
from here.
interesting when you especially when you talk about all of the struggles that our current president has had with his opposition regarding Mexico and their role in our immigration problem. They don't really.
Let me ask you this: why is it that there's a whole bunch of cities in California where you are at, as we speak, who are railing against Jerry Brown? They said, no, we don't want sanctuary cities. They're going again. We want to cooperate with ICE. So federalism is what we were talking about a little earlier.
Yep.
Federal government versus state government versus local government. These local folks are saying, no, we're going to go with the federal government.
Right.
And why are they reacting against it? Why is it the governor of Arizona, the governor of New Mexico, the governor of Texas, why are they all border states? Why do they want the National Guard?
So let me equate it to what's going on here in Lynn. We talk about this all the time. Darren and I have gone about this off screen. We've talked about it as a group. We talk about it individually. In the past, whatever number of years, we've added how many unaccompanied minors and folks that have come here where it has been a floodgates and our, what do you say?
Over 800 last year.
So we went from
800?
We have
800.
Now multiply that by 13.6 or 13,600
per year to
per
educate
year
them.
to educate.
So in our case, one of the biggest issues for the city of Lynn is we can't keep absorbing this steady flow of kids that come into the system, and we are required to educate them.
Wait a minute, Paul.
And whatever the case may be, whether it's the health system or whatever, you have situations like this in other communities all across.
Not like Lynn.
No, but
Lynn is more of a magnet. Paul, we have.
I'm not disagreeing with you, Joe.
Nonprofits who specifically contractors who, through the State Department, to which he has no control over, that bring people, gangs of families and groups to the city of Lynn specifically for the services that we provide.
Right.
But
we don't provide them. The nonprofits provide them. The city of Lynn does not provide those services.
We provide education. We provide health care. We provide,
But we don't provide housing and
but we have the housing stock.
And food stamps and all of that
That
other
comes from the
stuff.
federal government.
So there's a nonprofit in the city of Lynn, and I'm not going to get into any names or anything like that. There's a nonprofit in the city of Lynn that gets money, and I don't know where they get it, but they get it from either the state or the federal government or some, maybe the United Nations or something like that. And what they do is they educate illegal aliens on how to work around the laws of the country.
Of course, that happens all the time, Paul.
Right.
And that's the sad part. Now, folks, look, it's not just the wall that I spoke about earlier that slows the flow. We should close that border down because Lynn is being directly affected by federal policy, immigration policy, negatively. Also, don't forget the opioids that are coming in, particularly fentanyl, which 90% of it's coming in through Mexico from China. And that definitely affects the city of Lynn, if I'm reading the papers correctly.
It absolutely does.
You know?
And,
So-
it hits everybody's family knows this all too well.
This has nothing to do with racism. This has nothing to do with, look, everybody came to this country to
Economics is
come
what
and
it
make a
has to
better
do
life,
with.
and that's a noble thing.
Right.
But we can't take everybody in the world that's been disadvantaged. It's an impossibility. So we have to be selective. And, you know, we need a few more Indian chiefs. We got a whole bunch of Indians, but we need a few Indian chiefs. Trust me.
So can I just point out that, you know, we've been talking about a war on drugs for 50 years.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we've had a porous border. So the quote, war on drugs has been an epic failure. And I would argue that there was never any intent to have a war on drugs. It's almost as if they're hoping for it. They want it, you know. Because
Too much money to be made,
There's
Paul.
too much money to be made.
Okay, I mean, this is where we have to be honest and upfront about this. What we try to do on Frankly Speaking is speak frankly.
Right.
And, you have often said, follow the money.
Yep.
I mean, here's the accountant. You're dealing with it every day of the week. You're asked, you as council president, and the council president Celia is going to make some serious decisions. Don't forget, you can't write a budget.
Right. I
McGee
can only
can,
take away
you
the money.
can,
Right.
and you gotta do hoops and tricks with that allocated money and situations you can't anticipate. So the state decides to do a little mandate on you, and the federal government decides to do a little mandate, and you say, "What the heck hit me?" And guess who gets blamed? Not Moulton, not Elizabeth Warren, not
Yep.
you get blamed.
All the time.
Yeah. Isn't that the way it flies?
Yeah. Yep.
First ladies. Let's get the first lady on a lighter note. By the way, get your pencils out, ladies. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to see how sharp you are. Ready? We get the first ladies up there. They are. Name the two women who were both wife and mother of a president. I'm going to let you guys try to answer that.
Well, that's an easy one.
Yeah.
Abigail Adams, right?
And?
Barbara Bush.
Very good. Abigail and Bush. All right, ready? Name the two, this is an easy one, two foreign bond first ladies.
Well, we got one now, right?
Melina.
Yes? Melania. Who else?
And Adam's wife.
That's right, John Quincy Adams' wife. Very good.
What was she? English.
Did he say it? He said he didn't know. Don't give him credit for that, which he does not. Let's see if you can get this one. Hey, let me throw it to him and then we'll see if you can do it. Folks, I love having the dynamic duo back, dueling each other. Who was the only spouse of a president and grandmother of another?
I don't know. Would that be Teddy Roosevelt's wife?
Nice try. At least you got the name, two Roosevelts, two Adams, two Bushes, but there's two others.
Two others.
Think of a name, of which there were two presidents with the same name. And it's not
Adams.
Johnson. Yeah? The Johnsons were not related.
Right. Adams.
Tippecanoe and Tyler, too. You know who Tippecanoe was? He lasted exactly 1 month in office.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
William
you told
Henry
me that.
Harrison, right? And Rutherford B. Harrison. So she was grandmother and spouse. Now, folks, here's a good one. Who was the first lady to have seances at the White House? Ooh.
I don't know.
Well, you want to believe this one? Mary Lincoln.
Is that right?
Yeah, everybody thinks it's Nancy Reagan.
Was that something after her son died, or was that was that something that happened after her son died, or was it?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it was. That's a good point.
Because-
That's a really good point.
Well,
Yeah.
when you think about it,
Yeah.
after Lincoln was shot, she had to leave the White House. So it had to be when her
Exactly.
son died. So,
That's why you're council president, because
Oh,
over and above
can I
everything
tell
else.
you?
By the way, both of these fellows graduate from Tech, so that speaks volumes to how good Tech is. Who was the first lady? This is a good one. You can reason to this. Who was the first lady to vote and fly in an airplane? And want to hear the best part? She was accused of poisoning her husband, who died in office.
Oh, I know that answer.
You should be able to time date this one. First woman to be able to vote, first woman to get on a plane, and,
oh, it's got to be
McKinley.
Roosevelt.
huh?
McKinley.
No.
That's close. At least you're close. I mean,
Roosevelt.
I mean, it was an American president, right?
Of course. No, Roosevelt wasn't poisoned, was he?
But didn't he die in office?
He did die in office. Yeah.
And his wife was a...
She was accused of poisoning him.
Well, I mean, but... I'm just,
He was running
So you're
around.
saying
He was running around with a little honey in the
Okay.
closet.
Can we
He had
get
the
an answer,
Secret
Joe?
Service ringing a bell, huh?
Can we get an answer? Come
Yeah.
on, we're all hanging on a new.
It's
on a-
Harding. Harding's wife.
oh, that's right.
Okay. Who was the first lady to drive and own an automobile?
Own and drive an automobile.
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton. Oh no.
It was Taft's wife, Nellie Taft. Remember Nellie Taft? A friend of yours. And by the way, he became Supreme Court Justice, which is everything he wanted to be. Last but not least, and this is interesting because we like to talk about empowerment of women. Well, this woman was the first woman to graduate from Stanford with a degree in geology, and she was fluent, absolutely fluent, in Chinese. That's a big deal. That was Herbert Hoover's wife. We have a caller. We're going to put the caller up. If SISD, go ahead.
If ISD did their jobs to check apartments to make sure that the proper amount of people live there and not more, then the problem of an influx of children would be solved. I'm not sure I agree with that because you can never tell when everybody's home just on the surface.
But is there
But
some truth to
it
this?
also
No,
sounds
there
like
isn't.
that's kind of like a brown shirt thing. All of a sudden,
ISD doesn't have the right to go into anybody's apartment without permission, first of all.
Right.
Or to walk on anybody's property. So, and you can have, I believe it's up to, it's either 3 or 5 people in addition to your family members living in an apartment. And the way that ISD would be able to tell if somebody's using it as a rooming house, if they were allowed to go in there to inspect it, there are certain things that they look for, and I'm not going to say what they are on TV, but they actually do a pretty good job of finding rooming houses and,
Well, and I
putting
think
a stop to
that
it.
might be what the caller is really speaking to because you hear a lot of, somebody rents a 2-bedroom apartment and then
Right.
there's 14 people living
Right.
in it. And these are the things that
But
should
does
be
that
addressed.
happen?
That happens,
But
right.
when you find it and you stop it,
Yep.
now you have 14 people with no place to live.
Right.
So I mean,
and the other thing to look at too is in today's world that a lot of families, the kids are coming back and they're actually coming back with their kids and spouses, or grandparents are taking the kids in.
That's pretty much always been the way. In the old
Right.
days, whole
But it's a
families
lot
would live in
more
one
than
house.
now,
Right.
yeah.
But my question is this. It is what she said, does that exist?
Of course it exists.
All right, so
Everywhere.
if it exists, then she has a legitimate point.
Yep.
well, the point that it's a problem.
Yeah.
I'm not
We
sure
can't
that
brush it
I'm
off.
not sure that empowering ISD to storm into people's houses
Right.
is the answer, but
And,
wait a
and
minute,
you just
but-
said it the right way, storm in. We do not have the
Well,
right.
they just stormed into a lawyer's office on a client. Did they not?
That was the FBI looking
Yeah,
for
but they
whatever it was they
stormed
were
it.
looking
When
for.
people talk about storming in
Right.
and illegalities and violations of civil liberties and all of it, it seems to be a one-way street.
It does,
You know?
most definitely.
Okay.
But it's a completely different issue. We're
It
talking
may be,
about
no,
ISD.
it's fundamentally the same issue, which it should be the application of law justly to everybody equally.
Right.
And that's not what's
so
happening.
they shouldn't have done what they did to Cohen. Let's
And
put that.
But that's a
but they
different issue
also
altogether.
shouldn't do what the caller was proposing of having
Right.
ISD.
Okay.
I don't think that. I think that's a bad idea because in all due respect,
And I'm going to use, as a ward counselor, I've had to call ISD about a few particular properties where I knew there was people that were living in there, that there were illegal apartments, and more than the amount of people that should be in and they've come out, and they have to observe, and they have to see the comings and goings that's going on, and go and knock on the door, and they have to ask permission to come in. And usually, a tenant will allow them to come in.
What if they don't?
Well, then they can't go in the building. They have to go
And
to a judge.
So you're checkmated.
Well, you
No,
can
they
go
just-
to a court and get a court order to go in. But that takes time.
And you have to be able to prove
That's predicated on the ideology of the court officer or the judge.
Correct.
Because judges have different views about what the social justice should be.
100% of the time.
You know?
I can't tell you how many times we've gone out and given citations, and they've come in for a hearing in City Hall, and the hearings officer finds in favor of the city. So they'll take us over to court, and we'll go in the court, 90% of the time, will overrule
By the magistrate?
the city, yeah. And
That doesn't
it's a
surprise me.
magistrate who doesn't live in the city. I mean, you know,
Yeah, but they went to Harvard Law.
well,
So that gives them wisdom. Can you name, you out there, I'll get a minute to get this across, 10 body parts that are 3 letters long? 10 body parts that are 3 letters long. Something happened to the letters on that graphic. You notice the letters aren't there? See?
yeah, 3
Yeah.
long.
You're,
That's why when you asked me earlier,
oh,
are you 3 long?
Okay,
3 letters long, yes.
so I
Don't, wait a minute.
can
These folks
hear
said-
you.
I hear you. Folks, he gave you 1. You got 9
I gave
to
him
go.
2. I hear you.
What's the here?
I think
Here
you're
is
giving him a
4.
lot of lip
Yeah,
service
see,
is what
he's
you're
trying to
giving
give
him.
hints
You're
out
right.
there. So we have
Well, I'm
2.
hip. I'm hip.
Yeah, see, this is what he is. He's built. By the way, when you
I got a leg up on you.
You're
You
putting
do,
a
huh?
toe into the middle of the game here.
can you believe it? We're going to take a break, and then we got to get to some comments, and we got to give a few answers out there, and we got to do a little prognostication. You like that?
Prognostication.
Good word. We'll be right back.
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you're beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. Our whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Thanks.
We are back to our last segment, by the way, folks. You know, time goes fast. I want to remind folks that here, we at LCTV are proud to announce our new Paramount film screening series named after the site, the Paramount Theater.
Yeah,
You were an usher here, weren't you, when you were a kid?
I was not.
You used to sneak in.
I was sneaking in the back way.
I was right, you were sneaking in. Like you catch you there. Named in honor of the Paramount Theater, which used to sit on the same location as our studio. The second Friday of every month, is that when it's going to happen? We will be giving classic movies, and tomorrow night, which is in honor of Friday the 13th, I'm not leaving my house. Psycho! Remember
But
that scene?
also, Bentwater's going to be here tomorrow night too.
Really?
So
Here?
yeah.
Oh, good. Hey, can I just throw out a plug for Peter, who I spoke with at the bowling alley last night, and I just wanted to say that we talked about how you could communicate with us other than calling in, and if you send an email to info@lyntv.org, info@lyntv.org, you can they'll be monitoring the emails right up until 5 o'clock. So if you had a question that you wanted to get it in, and we'll make sure that we put it on the show. So, and that's for anybody who might have difficulty in communicating through the phone.
We have a caller.
We have a call?
Caller? The administration of the Lynn Public Schools should be able to look up the addresses of students, and if there are 6 to 8 or more students living at one address, that it should be checked. Ben L.
Well, the thing is that, as an example, 100 Broadway might be a 3-family with 3 bedrooms on each floor, and that's 9 bedrooms, and so 6 to 8 wouldn't be unusual.
Right.
So it's not foolproof.
And my wife's from a family with 12 kids, so.
So weren't the O'Briens, who were 12 there too.
And,
right?
and by the way,
One bathroom.
and I know we've talked about it from the perspective of, we don't want giving ISD this authority, which will take away civil liberties and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, there really isn't any resolve to go and chase down these things. You take them when you find them, and you deal with them as you go. But to actively pursue chasing it down and trying to figure it all out isn't something that
there's way too many other issues going on in the city for them to be doing that.
You know, I have a different persuasion on it. Another caller. Caller, get up there. Welcome to Frankly Speaking. How much longer is Bob Stillian going to be acting parking director? What happened to the old parking director?
The old parking director retired.
Yeah.
He was sick, and he went out on medical leave and realized he wasn't going to be able to come back. And the mayor at the time, Judy Flanagan Kennedy, appointed him as acting. And there was no issue or problem with that, so they left it that way. Now the new mayor is looking at it.
And Bob's kind of relatively young. I mean, he's got a,
Well, so he's going to be here for a while.
He's younger than we are, right?
I just want to
maybe a year or two.
Okay. Let me remind folks that tomorrow night, with Psycho's playing, you get down here about 6:30. There'll be some refreshments, which is nice, and the film will start at 7. I want to get that out. We got a call again? Yeah. One more up there. Do you know that the Massachusetts Constitution requires citizenship to vote? I would hope so. You know, speaking of which, last week, Ralph, thanks for that. Ralph brought up a really interesting point for 2 weeks in a row, and others have mentioned it. They'll call while you guys were on sabbatical. If you go to City Hall to register to vote, they don't ask you for birth certificate or whether you're a citizen or anything.
They can't.
Is that correct?
They can't.
Why can't they?
Because
that is inviting fraud.
So do you know the real ID law that's going into effect? You probably heard about it in the news where they're making everybody redo their licenses, and it has to be done by 2020.
Yeah, but not everybody has to do that, from what I understand.
Well, I'm not going to get into what the requirement is, but I just want to point out that it's a rather remarkable requirement that's being thrust upon the populace. If you recall, every time a conservative group says that they want to see photo IDs to vote, the left says, oh, no, you can't do that because people can't afford to get the IDs. Right? No, wait a minute, let me finish. And now this is going on, right? And I will tell you that for everybody who has to do it, there will be a fee associated with it, and it's going to be non-discriminatory. It's across the board. But they're not saying you can't do that because the people won't be able to afford it. On top of that, the state of Massachusetts has made it impossible to enter their buildings from now on without showing proper ID.
He brought that up. And I want to get back to what you said, because I think that's the critical thing. You're telling me that anybody can walk in, that the election officer cannot ask whether you're a citizen or not? And they have to register you to vote? Is that what you're telling me?
They don't have to register you to vote. You go to the city clerk's office in the town you live in, but you can register to vote through the mail, too. They do it through the census.
So isn't that inviting fraud? So all of this baloney about, oh, it's conspiratorial, oh, it's overstated, there is no fraud.
Definitely is.
So all of those folks California that voted for Hillary Clinton who are not citizens and that she's trying to claim a moral victory is a lot of crap.
Right. Yep.
So we have all kinds of...
For once we agree on something. That's pretty...
Folks, I mean, you've got to speak up about this. There are people who are voting in this country who are not citizens.
Right.
And that determines the outcome of our country and the direction we're going, no matter what. No wonder we have problems. Let me give you the answers to the questions, then we have to do a quickie on the comments, okay? The VPs. there were 14 vice presidents who became president. 8 of them as a consequence of death, and they are listed up there. Tyler, Fillmore, Andrew Johnson, Chester Arthur, Teddy Roosevelt, Coolidge, Truman, and Lyndon Johnson. Nixon was the only vice president that did not become president right after they served as vice president.
Right, he
was
ran and
interrupted.
lost, and, right.
Tyler had 15 kids. Would you believe it? He had 8 by his first wife, who died, and he got married while he was president and had 7 more. He was a pretty virile guy. And Ford was the only one unelected. You got that? Now, as to Paul and Darren are going to give you the 10 body parts. You said ear, eye.
Hip, leg, leg.
Yeah.
Toe,
Jaw.
jaw.
We only have a couple of minutes, so
Leg.
I can't get. You look it up. Look it up in your. You can look it up. 10 body parts. 10 left. So we only have about a minute left. Let me do the great show one because I love great shows. Great show. Ralph Briggs is doing a good job. That's while you were gone, by the way. Along with
So
Joe.
we got
Thank you.
competition now, huh?
It's nice not to hear the political jargon coming from some of the recent guests. I wonder who that might be. It would be advantageous to have summer bands, et cetera, downtown. So, yeah, we're going to bring this up in some detail because I think you should, I thought that they did a great job at Red Rock last year, didn't they?
They do every year.
Unbelievable
Yeah,
job.
that's what I'm saying.
That's Bob Tucker and the Friends of Lynn Beach that put on, I believe it's 10 concerts every year. They do the 4th of July. It's unbelievable. And they pay for it out of their own funds. I mean, people donate money, but...
We're going to have to wrap it up, but just before we do, you made me think of Sweet Jane. I love her, Jane Cale. And a tribute to Charlotte Cale, her granddaughter, who is in the
Celebrity,
paper.
yeah.
Yeah, as a celebrity now. She did very well at Avon School as a kindergartner. So we wish you our best to the Cales and the summer concerts. Good to have the dynamic duo back, and they'll be back next week. Tune in then. From now until then, bye-bye.